Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and this is my card for this week's Color Throwdown Challenge, which I will have linked below the video in my blog post. And the color challenge this week was a kind of a bright pink, a burgundy, a peachy yellow sort of a color, and purple. And we always do just generic colors, no specific brands. You can use whatever you want. So I pulled out 4 different colors of distress inks for this, and all I'm doing is mushing the little mini ink pads onto a piece of acetate. You could use a piece of packaging, whatever works. Mushing it on and then spraying it with a little bit of water and then pressing it onto some distress watercolor paper. And I have I think the smooth side of the paper facing up. Yes. So I was just kind of experimenting. I wasn't even sure how this was going to work. I like doing color smooshing. I've shown it in other videos, but I usually smush the color like right onto my craft sheet and press the cardstock in this way. And I've seen a lot of people do it like this, you know, giving you more control using the acetate or the transparency. I guess my biggest struggle is I end up using too much color. So I need to kind of lighten up how much color I use for, you know, whatever works. But it was fun to kind of play with this. So I started with the lighter, my yellow sort of color, and that was Scattered Straw. And then I added Picked Raspberry and then Aged Mahogany, and my final color was Dusty Concord. And the colors dried a little bit between each color, but they were still obviously damp because I wanted them to kind of blend into each other at the same time. So I just went along and was just doing it. I wasn't even sure if this was going to work. And then in the end, I was like, no, I'm okay with this. I can make this work. So just kind of fun and different, and a way to get a different kind of splattery watercolor background look. So once I was done applying the color, sometimes I dabbed up a little bit with some paper towel just because I didn't want like really deep splotches of color. And then I let that completely dry, and once it was dry, I ran it through my Big Shot with one of the dies from the Simon Says Stamp Basic Rectangle die set. This was the second largest die in the set. So I ran that through with that, and then this is the Paper Smooches Adorable Array die, and it's just this fun little flower arrangement die. So I was gonna run that through and then had a minute to think before I ran it through my machine and grabbed some of my Stick It adhesive sheets. So I had a couple little scraps there, so I cut down 3 pieces of that first so that I can adhere that to my cardstock, because I knew I wanted to use just the outline of this little die. And being a little bit finicky, and since I've shown you guys and said how I have such a heck of a time using craft foam or anything like that, I prefer stacking my die cuts like this, like die cutting, you know, 2 or 3 times from cardstock and then stacking them. So using the Stick It adhesive just made it so much easier, so I didn't have to sit and fiddle trying to adhere everything together. So you peel off the backing and you stick the piece of Stick It adhesive to the back of the cardstock you want to die cut. And then there's a release paper on there, and you leave that in place. And then I'm just going to run this through my machine. So I flip it back over and die cut the white cardstock I was using. And I ran it through multiple times there because it is such an intricate die. So I ended up die cutting it 3 times. And then I've shown this as well in videos. I left my original die cut just in the cardstock. Made it so much easier adhering like such a finely detailed piece. So I adhered one piece on top of the other. And then there's the little center there, so I adhered that as well, and just left everything else in place for now. And then I did that a second time, so I end up having 3 layers of the die cut here. And with the Stick It adhesive, you have some time to like move things around and fiddle with it. It doesn't really adhere permanently until you use a lot of pressure, and then it's stuck in place. So got everything aligned first, and then pressed it down really well. And then of course had to coat it with some shimmer, so that's also nice, having it just in its cardstock. In the scrap here, it's made it easier to hold everything. So I coated it with my Spectrum Noir clear overlay. And I will say, people have mentioned this to me, and it is true. Like, it does give a lot of shimmer, but if you handle this a lot, or if you rub your card a lot, the shimmer is going to come off. Like, it's just the nature of the product. Now, normally I don't have a problem with this, but with this one, because I was fiddling with this die cut so much, you can see I get shimmer all over my fingers. I get it all over the card, which I'm okay with. I like shimmer. But if that sort of thing really bothers you, I would apply the shimmer either at the end or right near the end, but with all the because otherwise with all the handling, it does get all over the place. So I popped it out of the backing and then set it aside. And then here I was stamping one of the sentiments. This is from the Paper Smooches Fun and Flirty stamp set. And I stamped it in clear, Simon Says Stamp clear embossing ink onto some vellum, and then embossed it with white embossing powder. And you're going to see right away, I ended up changing my mind after the card was done. I really didn't like how it looked with the white. It's just habit to do white embossing powder and vellum. That's kind of my go-to. But I didn't like how it just kind of faded too much into the background with the flower and everything else. So I ended up changing it after I was done this card and not on camera. And I stamped it and embossed it with black embossing powder and vellum. And you'll see in a picture right away here, and then in the pictures at the end and on my blog. I personally think it looked a lot better with the black embossing. The white just, it is over, especially over the yellow, and it just kind of meh. So I adhered it in place, and then I had a little bit of black cardstock, and I adhered that as well. And then made sure to press down really, really well on that die cut there to make sure it's adhered really, really well. And here you can see, I think it looks way better with the black embossing. So for the rest of this video, it's white, and then at the end, it magically changes to the black embossing. So to bring in more of the black, I used some Doodlebug Beetle Black enamel dots. And then I die cut some more favorite things. I'm kind of obsessed with this paper pack lately. This is the Dots and Stripes Neutral Pattern Paper Pack from My Favorite Things. And I want to use it on everything. It's just perfect. So I die cut the polka dot pattern paper with the largest die from that Simon Says basic rectangle set, which is an A2 size die, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then my card base is some heavyweight white cardstock that I cut in half and scored it at 5 1/2 inches with my Teflon bone folder. So it's a top folding A2 size card. And then I applied some ATG adhesive to the pattern paper panel there and just adhered that to my card base. And then for the inside of the card, I decided to use another sentiment from that Paper Smooches stamp set, the Fun and Flirty stamp set. And I'm using my mini Misty here and my little grid transparency to get the stamp lined up perfectly straight and centered. And then I decided to use the same distress inks, and I've said it before, distress inks aren't really meant for stamping. And especially on a brand new stamp like this, it hasn't been inked up before, and the ink really pools up on it, but I kind of had a feeling it was going to do that. That's why I pulled up my Misty, and you can see, or hopefully you can see on camera, it was really, really splotchy. And I used a piece of tape to cover the word awesome because I wanted it to be a different color. So I just inked up the stamp twice and then peeled off the tape, and then I got a much better impression. And then for the word awesome, I didn't bother taping anything else off. I just used the corner and the edges of the little ink pad in the Dusty Concord ink and inked up that word and then stamped it in place again. That's why I love my Misty, because I can just do it over and over and over again. And ended up having to stamp it. I think I ended up stamping it 3 times to get the word awesome perfectly stamped. So just went back and forth and inked it up, stamped it down, inked it up, stamped it down until I was happy with it. And that finished off my card. So I will have links below the video to my blog post, like I said, with a link to the color challenge. There will also be links to all the supplies used, pictures, all that stuff is in my blog post, which is right below the video. So check that out if you are interested. Thank you all so much for watching, subscribing, thumbs upping, and commenting on my videos. I read all the comments and I respond to as many as I possibly can, and I really, really appreciate the support. So thank you all so very much, and I will see you guys very soon in the next video. Bye.